Financial uncertainty has been spreading like wildfire since last week when the Silicon Valley Bank reported they suffered a significant failure. Soon after, the bank was taken over by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and customers were sent into a panic.
Many people are worried that this could signal big problems for the entire banking system. And let's be honest, the whole situation is a little confusing. So here to help clear things up is Dr. Memo Diriker. He is a business professor at Salisbury University and the one we always turn to when we have these tough economic questions. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
All right, so can you kind of shed some light on what exactly happened with the bank?
So this is an interesting case because it's a combination of reduced or lax oversight and some bad business decisions. This particular bank was overextended on a particular sector of the economy. They were heavy on tech firms that were depositors of theirs, and taking on that kind of a risk in one sector of the economy is not a good thing for any organization, let alone a financial institution. Then they compounded that problem by putting a lot of those deposits into long-term bonds, which meant that as inflation rose, they could not meet their obligations because the money was already tied up in these long-term bonds. And that prompted the feds to come and take over.
So I hear you using the words particular, specific, and one. Does that mean that the banking system in general is safe?
The banking system generally is safe, especially compared to, if you'll remember, the savings and loan crisis time, because the economy is different. In that time, demand was low. Right now, our problem is quite the opposite. Demand is high. In fact, this is why the Fed is increasing the interest rates. So the reliance of those deposits is low in the general economy. Furthermore, many of the banks are a lot safer, a lot better managed than happened to be with the SVB and the Signature Bank. These two banks made bad moves that just defy logic.
Yeah. And I hear some people saying they don't trust the banking system. They're going to pool their money. That's probably not a good idea, is it?
No, that exacerbates a small problem into a medium-sized problem, but still it would not be a big problem precisely because of the economy doing so well right now. And the relative importance of that sector is not as it used to be during the savings and loan crisis. Furthermore, the Fed has intervened and said, hey, depositors, we're going to hold you harmless. We're going to allow the investors in these banks who were asleep at the switch as these bad decisions were being made, take the consequences of it as it should be.
So what happens now to the Silicon Valley Bank?
So part of the bond portfolio has already been, or at least there's a buyer for it. And some of the investors are calling for it to be liquidated so that they can get some of those assets back. But as far as the depositors, the account holders are concerned, no problem, they have access to their money.
Okay, and what about the stock market? Has it affected it? Will it affect it?
Well, if you noticed it, when we first heard it, it went down a bit, and then yesterday it came back. You know, again, the major investors outside the financial sector are quite aware of the fact that this is a consequence of bad decisions made by executives. Now, there's also a little bit of a systemic issue. During the previous administration, some of the controls that were brought in by the Dodd-Frank bill were relaxed. And in fact, the leaders of the SVB Bank were some of the lobbyists for those controls to be relaxed. And look what happened. So I have a feeling that the government is going to come back in and put some of those controls back in, which is a good thing. You should have some level of fiduciary responsibility if you're taking on people's money.
Yeah. So there were red flags if they had been paying attention.
I think they were paying attention, but as frequently happens, greed took over. It's like musical chairs. Everybody thinks the music is not going to stop while they're doing it, or when it stops that they're going to be able to get a chair. Well, they couldn't.
Well, the bottom line is we shouldn't have to worry about our money. This is an isolated incident, and We are so glad you could clear that for us. Dr. Memo Diriker, Salisbury University.
My pleasure.
Thank
you,
you so
sir.
much.